This episode was recorded prior to COVID-19, but it is still an excellent example of how to achieve great success from a great idea. SoundCartel. Ever been on a dinner date and can't remember for the life of you what you ate? Well, take more note next time. It might not yield the love of your life, but it could be the grain of a wildly successful business. From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. Rice isn't something many of us think too deeply about. But when it comes to rice, we've always had both kinds, white and brown. That's until housemates Jarrod Milani and Marcus Brown acted upon their vision of introducing Australia to black rice, a healthier and tastier alternative to the comparatively bland varieties we're used to. In 2012, they founded Forbidden Foods, importing a range of high-quality grains for supermarkets and the food service industry. Australians, it seems, can't get enough of their all-organic, GMO-free rice range. The growth in Forbidden Foods has been phenomenal, doubling every year since the start. The company now exports to Singapore, New Zealand and Northern Ireland. But it hasn't been all plain sailing, far from it, as Jarrod Milani explains in a moment. For one, dealing with banks was, and still is, a huge challenge. First, Jarrod tells Chris Ashmore how co-founder Marcus Brown found the inspiration behind their venture.
He was travelling overseas at the time, and he was out to dinner out in the US, and he was with a lovely girl, and he was having this beautiful meal, and then he looked down and he was trying to work out what was on his plate, and he had black rice, and this was the first time that he had ever had black rice, and he was really taken by this grain. And this girl that was sitting across from him was telling him how good it was for him. Then he thought, well, I've never seen anything like this in Australia. So when he got back to Australia, Marcus and I were living together. We had previously been to uni together. He's like, Jarrod, I had this crazy grain. It's really good for you. It's called black rice. And he's like, I think there could be an opportunity to sell it here in Australia. I just don't know how, and it sounds like a crazy idea, but maybe we can start this rice company. So yeah, that's basically how it started.
What year was that?
That was 2010.
Right.
So it was just at the time when, superfood grains were starting to take off. You had the likes of chia seeds and quinoa becoming really popular. And so it sounded like a crazy idea, but after a lot of research we saw in the UK and the US, the black rice was indeed taking off, and Australia was yet to see it, and we thought it was our duty to bring this superfood grain to Australia.
Well, you had some very steep mountains to climb in the beginning. What were some of the obstacles at that beginning stage?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we were 21 years old, and we didn't have any savings, and so we basically had started this business from scratch with no funds. And so we really went, okay, well, how do we afford to sort of start getting this grain in? How do we package it? How do we start selling it? And I think one of our first learning curves or steep learning curves was finding the funds to buy the stock, to sell the stock. And that's what we did. We did a very traditional method of basically getting credit cards, getting the biggest limit we could find, and then loading up credit cards to buy rice, which, a lot of people think that's crazy to have, a whole credit card maxed out on just containers of rice and bring it to the country and hope that we could sell it. But it was, soon after that we worked out, we're onto something good here.
Well, finding the rice is one thing, but selling it, of course, is a totally different thing. How did you get your product on the shelves of supermarkets?
One of the beautiful things about Australia, a lot of our store managers or store owners were so friendly in Australia. We walked in there with this product, we were bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, saying, look, we've got this exciting rice. It's called black rice. It's organic. It's really good for you. Will you please buy it and put it on your shelves? And we were really surprised. I think like 9 out of 10 stores of our first 10 stores all said yes. And I guess it's a testament to, Aussies giving people a go. But then, getting on the shelves is one thing, but then getting recurring sales is another. So a lot of them told us, okay, well, if you can stay on the shelves long enough and get recurring sales, then we'll keep you on. So in those early days, we were telling friends, family, go to these stores, buy our product, and then would also go into stores, and then I'd see someone looking at our product, and if they took any interest to it and then they'd walk away without buying it, I'd say, hey, look, if you're interested in trying it, I'll buy it for you. So I'd spend all this time in stores buying my own product and giving it to people to try, and then that sort of got us into a bit of a recurring state and winning customers over.
It didn't end with supermarkets. You then moved into food service. What was the reason why you did that?
Yeah, it was actually a bit of a double win in our particular business. When we first started, we actually had our retail products packed overseas. And so we saw an opportunity to bring the rice into Australia in bulk and then pack it here locally. And so we've been doing that now for a long time. And we utilise a disabled labour service called Endeavour Foundation to back our retail products. But because it was just sitting here in bulk, we're like, well, there might be an opportunity for some restaurants to take it on. And then one of the very first emails I'd ever sent out for food service was this wonderful Mexican chain called Zambreros. And they were all about healthy Mexican and doing good in the world. And so I sent them an email. I said, look, you're all about healthy Mexican and you want to do great things. And we think there's really a great opportunity here to switch out your white rice with black rice. And testament to them again, and it's definitely great in Australia. They opened up their arms. They said, come in and tell us more. We're really interested in hearing about it. So, yeah.
And how many stores does Zambrero have?
At that particular time, they had 34 stores, and today they have 160 stores. We've been proudly supplying them since that day.
So their growth has meant growth for you?
It has. It's been an excellent relationship with them. They're a wonderful company, and everyone in their team has been doing such a phenomenal job, trying to grow the brand and putting out the food. The food's excellent.
Well, I think the feeling must be mutual. They awarded you Supplier of the Year recently. Why do you think the relationship has developed so well with them and reflecting in the award?
I think one of the things that we did well versus, say, other pre-existing food service companies is we're willing to go the extra mile, which meant a lot to them. So if there was, new product development or if there was a store that was out of stock of our particular line, we would go to great lengths to service the partners in the network there, the franchise partners, and this particular customer. Whereas I think a lot of people would be resistant and say, well, that's going out of the remit of me being a supplier. We'd say, yep, we're willing to go the extra mile. So, it was a really a nice surprise to win the award against some big food names out there.
Like Coca-Cola.
Like Coca-Cola and Mission Foods. And so, yeah, we were blown away and we said, okay, we're onto something good here with our customer service and how can we flow that through to everything that we do. So, yeah.
But that extra care, that going the extra mile, you do that as well. So would it be fair to say that you're not just a seller of rice but a provider of solutions?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So Forbidden Foods, we do organic rice, conventional rice, rice flour and rice food solutions. So we'll go through customers' menus and we'll see if there's a way that they can, increase the basket size or if there's new exciting ways that makes the meal Instagrammable or if there's money to be saved in the supply chain. So we sort of work around about ways to provide them solutions and then the rice supply just ties into it. So a lot of people have said, I didn't know there was such a thing as rice food solutions. And we say, okay, well, Forbidden Foods can help.
So innovation then, without putting words into your mouth, isn't just confined to technology companies, but any company can be an innovator.
Exactly. We do some really crazy things with rice. We've cooked it, we've boiled it, we've smashed it, we've milled it. And so we play around with all these recipes and we try to create things that are exotic but, can be applied to sort of mainstream. So we're, in our office we have a research and development kitchen called the Rice Lab and we play around with all these ingredients and then with the clients that we work with, we pitch them these new menu ideas and we say, hey, look, this is something pretty exciting. You might not use it, but, we think it's pretty exciting. So we've been pretty successful to date to introducing some really cool products out there into market.
Now, from the beginning, using credit cards to raise funds and the fact that you don't have so many assets per se, how have you found raising capital? Has that been a challenge?
From the very beginning, I think a traditional SME would, put the house on the line and go borrow against the house. Obviously, we didn't have houses. We didn't have savings. So I think the banks really struggled with what assets do they have? How are we going to lend against it? So initially, when we were able to get some sort of lending, it was against our wages that we had at our full-time jobs. But then as the business grew, we really struggled. We did. We really struggled to find any sort of lending or any sort of support out of the bank. And that part of the process became extremely cumbersome and demoralising because you'd fill out this paperwork when you knew what the end result was. Whereas we then put it back on the banks and we said, well, you need to tell us where our accounts or our business needs to be to get extra funding because we were growing so rapidly. So we've grown. We've just been doubling every year since day dot. So we had to go raise capital from private individuals that believed in our vision, supported our business, which has been actually giving us great governance in our business, and having other people feed back into our business has been excellent.
Well, you have a bit of a beef with the banks. I think I heard you say that for a fast-growing business, you're on the phone with the banks more than being on the phone with your customers.
Yeah, and I tell them that. Every conversation I have, I'm like, why do I need to talk to you as often as I do? It shouldn't be this laborious, this particular process. So any sort of increase requires a new set of paperwork, and then that paperwork goes through multiple checks, and then the results will tend to be the same. Whereas really the industry, they need to innovate themselves. They need to flip it around and say, okay, you need to be here before you even apply, rather than it being this sort of checks and balances process, takes 2-3 months, and they go back around. So, I want to talk to my customers more. So, it's a problem I don't see solved anytime soon, but there are some up-and-coming small fintech providers that are, nipping at their heels and are doing great things.
Mm-hmm. Well, the success has been phenomenal for Forbidden Foods. You've doubled in growth every year for the last 5 years?
Yep. So for us, it's been making the right moves at the right time. We started off in retail with 1 SKU, then we went to 2 SKUs, then we went to 5 SKUs, and then we went to food service. And now we've just recently released one of our most exciting products, which is a convenience product. It's organic. It's microwavable, 45-second breakfast rice, which is black rice and a coconut pudding in this packet. It's only a few bucks, and you're basically a great way to start your day. It's organic, it's gluten-free, it's dairy-free, it's vegan-friendly. And so, this is our next big thing in our business, getting into this organic convenience space.
Well, from your experience then, Jarrod, what would you say is the main ingredient for business success?
For us, it's been momentum. Knowing that, okay, we need to be looking 3 years ahead, forecasting 3 years ahead, going, okay, we want to be there in 3 years. What do we need to do today to ensure that we can get there? So we'll start investing today to make sure that we've got the infrastructure. And that's allowed us to continue that momentum.
That was Forbidden Foods COO and co-founder, Jarrod Milani. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more Be Daily tomorrow. Follow @BE Daily Podcast across social media and head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast. Sound.